Your child looks at you after falling, searching your face for one answer: am I safe right now? Some children grow up feeling safe. Others grow up confused. And the difference often comes down to just 5 parenting habits. And most parents don't even realize they're doing them because they don't look like harm. They look like love. By the 5th one, you'll understand why some children feel safe and others feel like they're walking through a maze. Now that moment, on its own, is just a hard parenting moment. Every parent alive has them. One difficult moment doesn't shape a child's nervous system. But here is the question worth sitting with today. What happens when that becomes the pattern? What happens when the person your child needs most, the person their entire nervous system is wired to reach for, is also, sometimes, the person who frightens them? That is what we are here to talk about. And before we go any further, I want to say something clearly. This is the most misunderstood attachment style, the most unfairly stigmatized, and the one most rooted in pain that was never yours to begin with. So if something in this episode is already landing, stay with it, because what you're about to understand may be one of the most important things you ever do for your child. Before we get into patterns and behaviors, you need to feel what your child feels, because until you do, the behaviors won't make sense. Every child is born with one core biological drive. When frightened, reach for the caregiver. This isn't learned. It isn't chosen. It is wired into every human nervous system from birth. When something scares them, they reach. But now imagine what happens when the caregiver is both the source of safety and the source of fear. The child is frightened. The system fires. Reach. But reaching is frightening too. So the system fires again. Retreat. But retreating means moving away from the only available comfort, which is also frightening. Forward is frightening. Backward is frightening. There is no direction that leads to safety. Researchers call this fright without solution. The nervous system activates threat response fully online, and then it freezes. Because there is nowhere for that activation to go. No strategy works. No behavior reliably produces safety. What you see on the outside, the freezing, the strange approach and retreat, the behavior that seems to make no sense, is a nervous system that has encountered an impossible equation and cannot solve it. And the child's brain, doing exactly what it is designed to do, begins to adapt. It learns to fragment, to disconnect, to survive a world where the solution and the problem wear the same face. This is not weakness. This is not damage. This is a remarkably intelligent system doing the only thing available to it. Now let's talk about what that looks like and what you can actually begin to change. Pattern 1. The unpredictable response. Sometimes you show up warm, you hold them, you stay fully present. And sometimes because you're stressed, triggered, flooded by something that has nothing to do with this moment, something else shows up instead. Coldness, irritation, a sharpness that surprises even you. Not always, not on purpose, just sometimes. And here's the thing most people miss. It's not the difficult moments themselves that create the deepest wound. It's the unpredictability. A child who consistently receives coldness adapts. They learn to stop reaching. That is avoidant attachment, painful but organized. There is a strategy: don't reach. But a child who sometimes receives warmth and sometimes receives something frightening, they cannot form that strategy, because warmth keeps appearing. It keeps offering hope, keeps pulling them back toward reaching. So they live in a state of constant, unresolvable tension. Do I reach? Do I not? Will this be the warm time or the frightening time? Their nervous system cannot predict, and a nervous system that cannot predict cannot feel safe. What do you do with this? Honestly, you begin with yourself, not your child. Ask yourself, what is happening inside me in the moments when I respond in ways that confuse or frighten them? In most cases, the answer is that your child's emotional state is activating something unresolved in your own history. Their need floods you. Their distress mirrors something old in your nervous system. Research on attachment transmission is consistent on this point. It is not how difficult your childhood was that determines how you parent. It is how well you have been able to make sense of it. Parents who have developed a coherent, compassionate narrative of their own early experiences, who can look at what happened to them with honesty and without being overwhelmed by it, are significantly more likely to raise securely attached children, even when their own childhoods were painful. You do not need a perfect past. You need an honest, compassionate relationship with the one you had. Pattern 2. The frightened or frightening caregiver. This is where the most shame lives, so I want to handle it carefully. There are obvious ways a caregiver can be frightening: anger, raised voices, unpredictable outbursts. If you recognize those, I'm asking you to stay. Not to condemn yourself, but to understand yourself. But there are less obvious ways too. A parent who dissociates, who goes blank, becomes suddenly unreachable in the middle of an interaction, is frightening to a child even when nothing overtly threatening has happened. The child looked to your face for safety information, and your face went somewhere else entirely. That gap registers as alarm in a child's nervous system. A parent who is visibly afraid of their own child's big emotions, who flinches, panics, or becomes overwhelmed when the child expresses distress, teaches the child something terrifying. My feelings are dangerous, not just unwelcome, dangerous. And a child who believes their emotional expression can harm or destabilize the person they love will do something predictable. They will begin to suppress those emotions with an intensity that goes far beyond ordinary self-control. A parent who sends mixed signals, warm in their words, tense in their body, reaching out while energetically withdrawing, gives the child a message their brain literally cannot process. Contradictory signals cannot be integrated. They can only be survived. What do? You work on your own nervous system, actively and consistently. When you feel yourself flooding in response to your child's need, when their distress activates something that feels bigger than the present moment, that feeling is your history speaking. The practice is learning to notice it before it travels through you and into them. This might look like therapy. It might look like breath work, somatic practice, body-based work that helps you recognize when your nervous system is leaving the present. It might look like a pause, even 2 seconds of conscious breathing before you respond, beginning to interrupt a pattern that may have been repeating for generations. You are not a bad parent. You are a person in pain who is parenting. Those are very different things, and only one of them can be changed. Pattern 3, the role reversal. Here is one that rarely gets talked about, and it deserves its own space. Some parents carrying unresolved grief, depression, loneliness begin, without meaning to look to their child for emotional regulation. Your child sees you crying. They move toward you to comfort you, and some part of you lets them, welcomes it even, because their warmth helps, because you are lonely, because no one else is offering what this small person is offering right now. And slowly, quietly, your child learns to read your emotional state before their own. They become hyper-vigilant to your mood. They stop asking the question all children are meant to ask, am I safe? And start asking a different one. How are you, and what do you need from me? Research on emotional parentification is clear about what this costs. A child who is orienting their nervous system toward regulating their parent has redirected resources, the energy meant for their own exploration, play, and developing sense of self toward an emotional labor they were never equipped to carry. Studies consistently find links between this kind of role reversal and anxiety, depression, and collapsed boundaries in adulthood. Children who grow up this way often become adults who don't know where their needs end and other people's begin. And here is the tender part. Your child does this willingly, lovingly. That willingness is not permission. It is love doing something it was never designed to do. So find adult support for your adult pain, actively, without shame. Your grief belongs somewhere in a therapist's office, in a trusted friendship, in practices that help you process what you carry, not in your child's small hands. Let them be the child. Do the work to make that possible. Pattern 4, the emotional invalidation. Research has found something that surprises many people the first time they encounter it. You do not have to be overtly harmful to contribute to disorganized attachment. Chronic emotional invalidation, consistently communicating that a child's feelings are wrong, excessive, shameful, or unacceptable, can create enough internal threat to produce the same fragmented relationship with safety that more visible harm creates. Because here is what a child understands at the level of their nervous system, beneath all language. If my emotions are not safe, I am not safe. A child who experiences their own emotional world as a source of danger doesn't lose access to those emotions. They go underground, they accumulate. They erupt suddenly, explosively, seemingly out of proportion to whatever just happened. Because the trigger was never really the trigger. It was just the moment the pressure exceeded the containment. What do you do instead? Make emotions welcome, all of them. Not because every behavior emotions produce is acceptable, but because the emotion itself always is. Your child's anger is not a threat. Their grief is not a burden you must remove. Their fear is not an accusation. These are communications. Your child's nervous system reaching toward yours, asking for one thing: a witness. You don't have to fix the feeling. You don't have to agree with what they did. You only have to stay openly, calmly, without flinching while they feel what they feel. You're really angry right now. I'm right here. That was so hard. It makes complete sense that you feel that way. I've got you. That staying is everything. It is the thing that slowly rewires the association between vulnerability and danger into something else entirely. Pattern 5, the unresolved parent. I saved this one for last, because it is the most important and the most tender. Research consistently finds one thing above all others at the root of disorganized attachment in children: a parent carrying unresolved trauma or grief who has not yet been able to make sense of it. Not a parent who had a difficult childhood, not a parent who was hurt or neglected, but a parent who went through those things and was never able to build an honest, coherent story around them, who still, when they encounter certain emotional territory, their child's fear, their child's anger, their child's raw need, gets pulled without warning back into their own unresolved history. The transmission is not intentional. In most cases, it is completely unconscious. A parent who themselves grew up with fright and no solution will, under stress, produce subtle signals in their face, their voice, their energy that their child's nervous system recognizes not as comfort but as threat. This is intergenerational pain, and it is not your fault that you received it. But it is within your power to stop passing it forward. The research is equally clear on this point. The cycle can be broken. Attachment-based interventions, therapy focused on making sense of your own early experiences, safe and consistent relationships, these are not luxuries. They are the actual mechanism by which one generation stops handing the wound to the next. You are not doomed to repeat what was done to you. But the breaking requires someone sitting with you while you look honestly at your history, not to assign blame, to finally understand it, to grieve what was lost, to make sense of the shape it left in you. And when you do that, when you begin to build that honest narrative of your own life, something changes in how you show up. Not because you've become perfect, because you've become present. Because the past is no longer ambushing the present. Because when your child reaches, you can actually receive the reach. Here is what researchers describe as one of the most important findings in the entire body of attachment literature. Disorganized attachment is not a life sentence. Not for your child, not for you, not for the relationship between you. A child can show disorganized attachment with one parent and secure attachment with another. A consistent, safe relationship with even one reliable adult, a grandparent, a teacher, a therapist, can begin to shift what the nervous system expects from the world. And within a parent-child relationship, disorganized attachment has what researchers call only modest stability. Over time, it changes. It responds to what happens next. It is not sealed in the past. It is being continuously updated by the present, which means every moment of genuine safety you create is data. Every time your face stays open when they bring you something hard, every time you remain calm when they are at their most frightened, every time you repair after a moment where you got it wrong, and repair always matters, and it is always available to you, you are not trying to undo the past. You can't. What you are doing is building new patterns on top of old ones. And nervous systems, even young ones, are remarkable at updating when the evidence consistently points somewhere new. When I reach, something safe happens. When I fall apart, I don't lose you. I don't have to choose between needing you and being safe. That is the lesson your child's nervous system is waiting to learn. And you, with support, with honesty, with the kind of courage it takes to look at your own story, are the one who gets to teach it. Disorganized attachment is not born from a parent who doesn't love their child. It is born from a parent who loves deeply and who is simultaneously carrying something so heavy, so old, so unprocessed that sometimes the weight of it finds its way into the space between them. You were a child once. You needed safety too. Maybe you found it. Maybe you didn't find enough. Maybe the people who were supposed to give it to you were themselves too full of pain to offer what you needed. That history is real. The weight of it is real. And it was not your fault. But you are here. You are listening. You are asking the questions most people never ask, because they are too close, too uncomfortable, too much. That matters. That is, in fact, the beginning of everything. Get the support you deserve, not as punishment, but as the most profound act of love you can offer your child. Find someone to sit with you while you make sense of your own story. And in the meantime, in the ordinary moments, on the ordinary days, practice staying, practice keeping your face open, practice repair. Because the child who watches you do your own work, who sees you try, fall short, and try again with honesty and humility, that child is learning something no perfect parent could ever teach. It is possible to have been frightened and still become safe. It is possible to have been broken and still become whole. It is possible to do differently than what was done to you. You are living proof of that possibility. Every time you stay, you make it more true. If this landed somewhere real in you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment. Tell me what you recognized, what you're carrying. You are not alone in it. Until next time, be gentle with yourself. Do your own work. And remember, the most courageous thing a parent can do is look honestly at their own story so their child doesn't have to carry it.